Walking up to the edge of the cliff was the easy part. It was stepping over that was hard. Or rather, hitting the send button. Because once that button was pressed, it couldn't be unpressed. There was no going back. Oh, just do it already. It was Sunday night. Late, but not ridiculously late. Definitely not too late for what I wanted. But then again, I hadn't met a man who'd ever refused me based on the hour. And between Aiden and I, the hour had never mattered. Remember these? They were two little words, simple words, attached to a photo of my long, naked legs, taken from the thighs down. But they were also words that would start a chain of events that couldn't be stopped. It would be like falling backward into a warm, familiar abyss, or like stepping off a cliff. Screw it. I pressed send and let out the air trapped in my lungs through clenched teeth. It felt good being decisive, like going forward, but also going a little backward too. At this point, though, I really didn't care. Wow, blast from the past. Of course I remember them. The tiny ellipses blinked as my ex continued hammering out the rest of his message. I remember what those things were attached to even more. Butterflies erupted in my stomach. I was off the cliff now, falling, spinning. Want a little more of that? His answer was immediate. Seriously? The butterflies had friends now, tons of them. Uh-huh, one more run. No strings attached, of course. Consider it a bonus round. I couldn't believe what I was typing. Then again, I could totally believe it. Holy shit, Summer. Aiden and I had met in our junior year of community college. The relationship had been fiery from the beginning, lasting all the way until after graduation where we crashed and burned. In between was a roller coaster of highs and lows, a whirlwind of laughter and fun and incredible memories, mixed in with all the insecurities and immaturity of two silly college kids convinced they were in love. And now it was 3 years later, and here I was, pretty much in the same spot, the same place in life, while Aiden, on the other hand, how do you know I was in town? There was no reason to lie. Besides, I was bad at it anyway. Been stalking your Insta. Saw you'd stopped home. Stalking, yes. Obsessing? Maybe not just yet. Still, my ex-boyfriend's social media pages were filled with incredible photos of the ridiculously exotic places he'd recently been. Which made sense, since he was a traveling photographer. But on top of that had been pictures of him. His dark hair, his soul-searing, light brown eyes. Aiden was deeply tanned, beautifully toned, and had grown a fantastic beard that made me wish he'd done it while we were together. And then there was his body, which had somehow been sculpted into resembling the musculature of a Greek god. His chest was magnificently broad. His big arms, shredded with the most amazing biceps and triceps. But the coup de grace, of course, were the acres and acres of rock-solid abs my ex-boyfriend had suddenly developed since dating me. I'd spent the last half hour staring at them, in photo after photo, wishing I could run my fingers over them, daydreaming about what it would feel like to lay my cheek down against the flat of his stomach, as I'd done so many countless times before. And then it occurred to me, why the hell shouldn't I? You really want to see me? The words barely registered before I was responding. See, among other things. My stomach dropped. This actually might happen. Right now? What part of this booty call wasn't he getting? Would he rather wait until I changed my mind? I could picture him laughing at the other end of his phone. I was always changing my mind throughout our relationship. Sit tight. Be there in 15. A shiver of excitement rocketed through my body, even as my mind flashed all the usual alarm bells, telling me this wasn't such a great idea. I won't be sitting, but I'll still be tight. Summer. My inner voice punched me hard in the arm, chastising me for being so bold, so daring, so slutty? Sure, maybe a little. Then again, I'd been as celibate as an angel for the past 3 or 4 months. Not so much as a single date after ditching Ryan for greener pastures. And by greener pastures, I meant letting my fingers do all the walking. Because yeah, Ryan sucked in bed. Always had, always would. Poor Ryan. No, poor me, if anything. And yet I'd stuck it out, even with the lackluster sex and a guy I wasn't too crazy about. I'd stayed with Ryan more out of habit than anything else. And I'd done the same with Anthony, with Christian, with… Shit, Summer. Maybe it's you. I laughed into the little bedroom of my shared apartment, wondering what the fuck was wrong with me. Not just because I was laughing maniacally to myself, but because maybe, just maybe, it actually was me. Forget all that, my inner voice chided. It sounded excited now, maybe even more so than I was. Better get ready. Just then, another pair of text messages came through unexpectedly, one right after the other. And while we're exchanging photos, remember this? The image that followed was taken at the same angle as mine, straight down a pair of muscular, masculine legs. Only this photo was taken a bit higher, high enough that I could see the distinct outline of Aiden's thick, swollen manhood, straining mightily against a pair of tight black boxer briefs. Holy shit. It wasn't the first dick pic I'd ever gotten, but it was the only one that gave me the full-body shivers. I felt suddenly flush and warm. Every inch of my exposed skin had erupted in goosebumps from head to toe. Somehow I managed to work my phone again. Bring that thing over here, and I'll take good care of it. 2. Summer. I opened the door between the second and third knock, which I decided wouldn't seem too eager despite my predicament. Then again, it was almost midnight. My roommate was away, and I just invited my ex-boyfriend over out of the clear blue sky. It wasn't exactly like we were gonna play dominoes or anything. At the last moment, I glanced over at myself in the foyer's mirror. I decided upon sexy casual. A loose-fitting pair of very short booty shorts and a plain white crop top. Sleepwear, really. But I'd be doing anything but sleeping in it. Hey. Aiden stood in my doorway again, for the first time in way too long. Designer jeans, tight shirt. He looked exactly like he did in the photos I'd fantasized so often about. In the flesh, even better. Hey yourself. I smirked back at him. He stepped in, and suddenly his arms were around me. His hand slid over my lower back, his body hard and tight as he pulled me against him, pressing his lips squarely against mine. Holy! The kiss was slow, deep, sensual, totally unexpected, but also so totally, utterly welcome. So much for awkward silences. I'd been worried about how it would go, who would make the first move, and whether or not it would be strange between us after all this time. But now we were kissing like star-crossed lovers, swirling our tongues into each other's mouths, Aiden pressing one big hand into the small of my back, holding me steady, while his other palm slid hotly and unapologetically over the curve of my ass. Fuck yes. I melted into him, inhaling his musky, manly scent. His hair was picture perfect, even at this late hour. The sexy shadow of his stubble trailed down to his immaculately groomed beard, but it was his arms, his chest, his body that threw me for a loop. Aiden was bigger now, broader and more powerful, so much less like the college boy I remember dating, and so much more like a man. You look amazing, he said, finally breaking the kiss. He still held me fast, in a way that was new and exciting, yet comfortingly familiar. But now he was eyeing me up and down. Yeah. No, seriously, he chuckled. Summer, it's been a long time. You've changed. His accompanying smile told me he approved of those changes, which had come at the expense of hundreds of hours in the gym. and his hands were moving again in ways I wholeheartedly approved of. "You know, it's kind of funny you reached out," he said. I arched an eyebrow. "Oh? What if I told you I've been thinking about you lately?" Aiden smiled, giving me a squeeze. "I'd call you a liar." "Because I have," he went on, completely ignoring my words. The hand on my ass was clenching me possessively, grinding me against him. "Actually, I've been thinking about you a lot." "Look, you don't have to flatter me." I laughed. "Because right now, no matter what you say." I stood on my tiptoes, bringing my lips right up beside his ear. "You're still gonna get laid." I kissed his neck, tasting the salt there, dragging my lips gently up the curve of his awesome jaw, while letting my own hands roam wherever they wanted. And of course, they wanted one thing in particular. Damn. My ex-boyfriend was already hard. I could feel a heavy, swollen thickness right through his jeans. It shifted as I began kissing him, coming alive in my hand, uncoiling even more, growing bigger and bigger until, "You know I'm going to fuck the hell out of you," he groaned throatily into my ear. The statement sent a flood of wetness surging downward to that magical spot between my legs. "Yes, please. But also, well, I have a little proposal for you, too." I mumbled, not caring about anything but the rapidly growing knot in my hand. "Intriguing." "More of a big proposal, actually," he corrected himself. "But—" "What, are you selling Amway?" Aiden laughed into my mouth and kissed me again. "No." "Running a pyramid scheme?" He shook his head. "Nothing like that." I melted even further against him, deftly undoing the top button of his jeans with one hand. It was a trick I'd learned from him so very long ago, one I'd practiced 1,000 times, over equally as many nights together. He gasped as I slid my hand down the flat of his beautiful stomach. I didn't stop until I found my goal, and I'd wrapped my fingers around his incredibly warm thickness. "Well, can it wait until after we fuck?" I purred sexily. Aiden's eyes locked on mine. He nodded slowly, as if in a trance. "Sure can." "Good answer," I said with a wink before dragging him into my bedroom. 3. Summer. I took my time undressing him, my heart pounding the whole way. I was about to do something naughty and forbidden, something I was supposed to regret in the morning, although I knew right then I wouldn't feel a single ounce of buyer's remorse. Not with this body. My hands roamed Aiden's bare chest, lingering on his rippled ocean of rock-hard abs. They moved lower, yanking his jeans down, pulling his boxers down with them. And definitely not with this cock. His hands sifted into my hair as I dropped to my knees, nuzzling my face against his warm, thick shaft. Aiden was even bigger than I remembered him, and I'd remembered him big. I moaned, dragging my lips over the length of his stiffening shaft. I began teasing him with my tongue, running the tip lightly up and down the underside before swirling my mouth over the head. I've missed this. I plunged downward, swallowing him whole, taking him all the way into the very back of my throat. Aiden groaned, his mighty arms going suddenly tight, his knuckles tightening as his fingers rolled into two big fists. "Not as much as I have," he managed to breathe. For the next several minutes, the only sounds in my little bedroom were the obscene sucking noises of me going down on my ex-boyfriend. And it was good, too. So much better than I ever remembered. Maybe it was all the lost time, or even the taboo aspect of doing something I wasn't supposed to. But whatever it was, I couldn't remember being this wet or excited since ever. Up and down I went, rotating my mouth along his impressive length. Aiden's balls were heavy and full. I cupped them in my palm, rolling them between my fingers, and then pulling gently downward while stroking upward with my free hand. Didn't he like that, or was that someone else? Suddenly, I wasn't sure. I'd had several boyfriends since we'd broken up, each with his own particular tastes and styles. Either I was remembering something Aiden loved, or I was performing an all-new trick on him. Either way, his groans told me he appreciated the maneuver. I tried to think about the last time we'd done this. One last hurrah before our breakup took us in opposite directions. In truth, I couldn't remember being angry, just upset that it was actually over. Aiden and I had been good together for a very long time. He'd made me laugh more than any other boyfriend. He'd also made me feel happy and safe, and he totally fucked your socks off. Let's not forget that part.